We're not live, are we?
We are just actually went live right now.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, and then I'm going to connect to Facebook for MCN6 as well.
Now that once you guys lost your Facebook page, I never knew how to find you guys.
Well,
again.
Tasty Cakes.
Tasty Cakes.
Yeah, it does. And we never got it back.
I know.
I hope you're shopping there at least.
No, they got shut down because we complained, but we didn't know how to get it back.
Oh my God.
And we put zero effort into it.
Well, and
I put effort into it. Someone
Sorry.
wasn't.
well, just like well, I mean, I do like.
Javier wasn't participating. All right.
Surprise.
But I don't know how to.
Brian, you're trying to do a podcast. Stop talking to people. Oh, he's giving up money. Sending over dollars.
I want dollars.
All right.
Gosh, on these
And we're
dollars.
connecting to
dollars.
MCN6.
Why do I feel like I can't hear Amy sometimes?
Can you not?
Yeah, you cannot hear
Oh,
me.
now you can. Now I can.
I'll just keep it here. I was turning it off and on.
Oh.
Just FYI.
I would say Amy's known for being real quiet.
No, I just know I don't need a hot mic.
Okay. Okay. So we are live to both. So if you guys are ready, I'm going to start the commercial.
Great.
Okay. Rolling.
Support for Wrong About Everything comes from Minnesota's credit unions. Credit unions are locally based, member-owned financial cooperatives that return earnings to members through higher savings rates, lower loan rates, and reduced fees. Visit mncun.org for more information. And we are back with another episode of Wrong About Everything. I am former Republican Senate Majority Leader Amy Koch.
And I am Rochelle Westland.
I am former DFL State Senator Carla Bigham.
And we are Wrong About Everything. Well, so this is a little discombobulating setup, but I like it. We got, and folks, why don't you tell Rochelle and Carla, do a little rundown, but by now I really feel like you're just co-hosts on the regular, so.
Part of
Yeah,
the regular team.
We're on the regular.
Oh, that's
yeah,
exciting.
yeah.
Regular squad now.
Yes,
Does
yes.
that mean we get shirts?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they'll say momentum.
We'll get the
Not Wrong
swag.
About Everything.
We'll get the
I know,
swag.
It's a business expense.
I feel like there was supposed to be shirts at like some kind of event that like 100 years or 10 years party that never happened.
For Wrong About Everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you know what? We couldn't save our Facebook page and we couldn't get anything organized.
Man.
If there's an intern out there that this feels bad for us, please
Come help.
come
All right, sorry, I didn't mean to bring that
help
up.
us. We're old. All right. Yes. Okay. All right. So we're so happy to have Biggie and Rochelle in the house. Thank you again here in beautiful Minnesota Credit Union Network studio. We have someone special on the couch. We've been toying with starting a segment, as listeners will know, that if you're a Patreon, not a Dick Club, that we might let you come in and watch a live show. Although Brian thought that nobody would care about watching a live show, but
That is not true.
but we have on the couch.
I've had several people tell me that they would love to be on the couch, and I think that it should be maybe a fundraiser for a good cause or something like that. It would be a great idea.
I dig it. So we don't have a camera set up yet, but Clint Fredrickson, my boyfriend, is on the couch. So hi, Clint.
Oh,
I was
gross.
kind of wondering how the introduction was going to go. I was like,
Let's just land it. Shall we just land it?
hey.
All right.
It's
So,
official now.
so I have a question, Amy.
Yeah.
Is this what the kids would call a hard launch?
Yeah.
Is that what they would say?
Yeah, that's it. But so there you go. So we're
Welcome,
starting the
Clint.
segment with one of the best right there. We'll have to figure out how this is going to go. Okay, shut up, Brian. We also want to thank our producer and comedian, Gabe Noah, who is in charge of NBC Studios podcast network here. So if you're looking for a place to start up a podcast, get your message out there, you can contact Gabe Noah. He's fantastic at that. And we'll also pay some bills because, as you all know, big sponsor besides the Minnesota Credit Union Network is Bradshaw and Bryant.
Yeah. So if you did something wrong and you maybe needed some legal advice, who do you call?
You call Bradshaw and Bryant.
There you go.
Their entire team of attorneys and staff are dedicated to providing the legal advice you need, combined with the service and personal attention that you deserve, Rochelle. If you have questions about how they can assist you with a personal injury, wrongful death, or criminal defense matter, do not hesitate to contact them. Consultations are free.
Awesome.
Please contact them. Oh, what?
I was
Did you have something about the
interesting.
free
You always
consultation?
talk about the defense attorney, but they're personal injury attorneys. So, like, if you get hit by a car, for example.
Well, yeah. No, if you get hit by a car, they will
in the
do
Starbucks.
whatever you need for
Yes.
legaling. He just
Awesome.
doesn't like snitches. That's all. Mike Bryant will not represent snitches, so don't bother.
All right.
And you can contact them at 1-800-770-7008 or just go to minnesotapersonalinjury.com. That's easy to remember. Check it out. Okay, folks. First of all, we have to start with, as people that have been listening know, we have a legislative agenda. It is the legislative session that is now winding up. It's deadline week, and so we have
Hell
to report.
week.
It's hell week. That's right. The poor staffers, the poor legislators, the poor advocates and lobbyists. It's a tough week down there. But for the podcast, we have our own agenda.
Yep.
Last week we had a big announcement, big move forward. We the bill has not been moving, but we've got our great advocate, Representative Mike Freiberg, at the Capitol asking the tough questions, which we all want to know is,
Yes.
what the hell is happening with state fair ticket
Yes.
prices?
Yeah.
Through the roof, unacceptable. They held a hearing, as you saw from our made-up video, that on the state fair ticket prices, which we appreciate, and the hero Mike Freiberg was asking the tough questions
Yeah.
of the state fair board,
Yeah.
of who we still don't know
No.
who is on that board, and we need answers.
Did anyone follow up on our "we want them to come in" space?
No, no. Well, we
man.
didn't even get our Facebook page.
After session, we should have
Do you
Freiberg
think
come
we have
in.
to follow through?
Yeah.
After session, we'll bring them in for some
Absolutely.
interim hearings.
He always has some really cool bills anyway.
That is.
Exactly. So, but this week, folks,
Okay.
big week for the other piece of the agenda, which is Senate File 811, which is the lifting of the prohibition on eating nuisance beaver. Apparently in 2024, a prohibition was put on eating nuisance beaver, which we found objectionable.
Yeah.
And so did Senator Grant Housechild, who then drafted a bill to lift that prohibition. Well, first of all, good news. I heard yesterday from Senator Wiesenberg, who's also a proponent of Senate File 811, that our language is in the Senate omnibus bill. So,
there we go.
bravo for those folks that made the phone calls, the folks that made the legislative visits. We want to thank you. Your hard work paid off. I mean, it's not a done deal.
No.
We got to negotiate.
No.
Yeah,
Long way to go.
but Amy, we got a
Yeah,
We got a problem.
no, we'll get to what's that?
problem, former leader.
What's happening? Oh,
Dear. No, we
it's
got to
the
put that.
retiring
We got
one.
to, Gabe. We got to put that back up. There's a clear violation of the Senate rules right here, Madam Leader, and that is no pictures of the retiring room,
I know.
Madam
It is like
Leader.
it's like we've seen the
It is
inner
lawlessness, and there was
sanctum.
never eating beaver in the retiring room, and there was never.
But you can eat whatever you want.
Taking pictures of the ritiring room allowed when I was there. Lawlessness. I guess.
There is. So probably should be taking this up with Senate Majority Murphy. But okay, so first of all, there's a celebration this week, which we also have not celebrated yet. It was on Monday. And Clint let me know it was National Beaver Day on Monday. So Senator Wiesenberg, who is a proponent, a big proponent, brought in beaver that his wife prepared, and the picture Carla is referencing is Senator Wiesenberg standing inside the retiring room with said beaver
On the edge.
on the edge of the retiring
I mean,
room.
now every House member
brought
can
in
see
for the other
in the
senators.
retiring room. There's now no secrets about the Senate's retiring room,
Oh. Well,
and they're eating beaver in the retiring
but
room.
I'm torn because look at he's a proponent and he's moved forward our
Yeah.
agenda, so I can't. Now I did run into him. He did offer some of this to me.
Did you try it?
I tried a little bit. I have to say I'm willing to try anything. It's 2025. I did enjoy it.
You did not?
Did not.
not enjoying.
Did not enjoy the beaver.
The beaver's a little gamey.
I was
so-
saying, was it just
Yeah.
the
You have to be
flavor?
careful with
Like,
that.
Yeah.
you spice
You
it
do.
differently?
Say, we're getting a lot of listener questions. Who was it who prepared that beaver again?
Mrs. Senator Wiesenberg.
Okay, he brought it in. Okay.
Yep. And
Just
then
for
he
the
brought it in.
clarification.
He was very clear that it was his wife's recipe.
Now, with Senator Wiesenberg, who's a Republican, and Representative Freiberg, who's a Democrat, not only is this just common sense, but this is also a bipartisan bill. So just it's still in keeping with our podcast and the podcast.
That's right. We are
what we're trying to
bipartisan. Our
achieve here.
legislative agenda is bipartisan.
Yes.
We're
But,
glad to see it.
He is a first termer, but I think somebody needs to talk to him about the rules.
Well-
we follow the rules.
This is why everybody hates the Senate.
Very disappointing
The whole
about the
lot of things.
lawlessness going on in the
Because
Senate.
I have seen the House retiring room many times. They let anybody in there.
Yeah, I know, but this is the Senate.
Any guy who's going to bring a plate of beaver in to the others is not going to be deterred by rules like that.
That's true. That's a great point, Gabe.
Yeah.
And he would not be. So great news.
Yes.
Listeners, if you want to continue your advocacy for Senate File 811, we would encourage you to contact your state rep now and ask them to please accept the Senate language on Senate File 811 in the Environment Omnibus Bill. If you need emails to contact your state rep, just get a hold of Brian. Just drop into his DMs and ask him. He's very happy to help provide that information. All right.
Just DM, any beaver questions. Just send them to me, and
Yeah.
I'd be happy to address your beaver questions.
He'll field all those questions.
Yep.
Great. All right. Nothing weird about that whole segment. Thank you, everyone. Okay. All right. Let's talk about, first of all, national. It's kind of hard to ignore, folks. Last week was the largest 2-day drop in the history of the stock market. It was last week. Trump made good on his campaign promise. He told us all he was going to do it, and he did it. And he dropped. He called it Liberation Day, where he announced that he would be doing, tariffs across the board on many, many things. And
Oh, you sure liberated my 401k, I'll tell you that.
international-
I heard that a lot.
And the international community responded. In fact, even today, just now, China announced tariffs going from something like 30% on items to 80-some%. So I think it's safe to say that we are in what I hope to be a very short-lived, but indeed a trade war with a variety of folks across the globe. And it's... Right. President Trump is saying this is going to be a short-term pain for long-term gain. I don't know. So let's hear what you all think. How's your 401k doing, Ro?
Well, I didn't completely look, but I've definitely heard from my friends, and I think that it's just hard. It might be short-term pain, but how the world is going to respond and what their impact is going to be, I think is so much to be determined. And prices are already high, and increased prices here and increased workforce here is just going to increase those prices more. I think that we're heading.
If I can, though, I mean, I think that this is, I'm a free trade guy. I think this is a terrible idea. It's terrible policy. In no way, shape, or form do I think that this is, the direction that our country should be taking. I'm actually very happy to see that he did put a 90-day stay.
Only just like a few minutes ago, it was announced that he put a stay.
For everybody but China. But one thing that is something that's good that's coming out of this is that people are starting to kind of learn a little bit about their government, because I'm sure there are people who think that these tariffs that he's putting on are going from zero to whatever they are, when there have been existing extremely high tariffs from other countries, all the countries, China, Mexico, Canada. So we are finding out that yes, increased tariffs, which are taxes, do increase the price of goods. So this is something that I think people need to learn about their own government, that need to apply it when their domestic taxes go up as well. This is a bad idea. It's raising prices. It's hurting businesses. It's hurting 401ks. And I'm glad that he blinked and backtracked on it. But also, let's not kid ourselves. This is something that other countries have been doing to us for decades and decades and decades. It's only now that we're kind of giving them a taste of their own bad medicine.
Well, this instability is no way to obviously run an economy or get people to want to start businesses. promises here. So if that's his goal, complete fail. But this is exactly how Trump does things in pure chaos. But this hurts our farmers. It hurts our jobs. More importantly, it hurts working class, middle class people. And when Navigator puts out a poll that has an unfavorable view of tariffs at 58%, Quinnipiac has dropped, puts out a poll where Trump's approval rating is now at 41%. It is impacting him. And I think that has been the main driver. This has always been about him. He gives a speech last night at a huge fundraiser for the Republicans where he says, these leaders are calling me, kissing my butt. That's what it's about. It's about him. It's about people. He wants people to kiss the ring. This isn't about lowering the cost for working people and working families, because he isn't doing it. He's just like Brian said, he is increasing the cost, and he isn't targeting or doing any of his campaign promises, because if he was, he'd be working at lowering the cost for people.
Well, and I think it's interesting, Brian, you talk about, this is going to give people a chance to really see what was there and what was not. And I don't know that people are going to, call me crazy and have little faith in the public sometimes, but I don't know that people are going to walk back to really understand the full spectrum of how things work or how things don't work. Right. I think that what they're going to notice is what's happening in their 401ks, in their wallets, at the grocery stores with their kids. And, for good or for bad, I don't know where we come away from this is going to be, I think, more political than
I think
not.
One thing that President Trump in his first term touted was the stock market, right? And despite there being, concerns on a lot of economic levels, he would always kind of point to the stock market and say, but look, the stocks are going crazy. Mm-hmm. My economy is really strong. In this case, the exact opposite happened. And I'm not super surprised that he did. He blinked some. So I should say what he's doing is he's taking back the tariffs on the 75 countries that basically didn't retaliate.
Penguins.
Yep, but he is increasing the tariffs on Chinese goods 125%. So it's definitely China that has been the aim. China has not been a friendly trading partner. They've not been an equitable, reasonable trading partner before Trump. Now, I don't love what he's doing, but it is highlighting, as Brian said, something that has been there for a while. And no one has been willing to take on the Chinese when it comes to this, copyright infringement, the list goes, human rights violations, because we're all so deeply in economically, so many companies, so many sports teams are so beholden to China now because of their size and their economic stretch. We've allowed them to run over us.
Absolutely.
And so I am happy to see America standing up.
Let's also talk about how who didn't get the tariffs. It was Russia. It was Cuba.
Yeah.
I mean, these are people that are not our friends.
They are not.
And look at what he did. What he's done to our allies. Canada and Mexico. That we need them as trading partners. They are two of our top 3 trading partners for our farmers and for our manufacturing companies here in Minnesota. And so again, to Rochelle's
there's
point,
many there's swine farms, right, that are on that farmers that have Minnesota and Canadian farms, and so they're just they don't exist. They don't see the border. They exist on both sides.
Well, and to Rochelle's point, I don't think Minnesotans are gonna dig down into the details of it. They're just gonna go to the grocery store and they're gonna just go and buy their everyday household goods, and look at it's not going down. And then here's another topic that is very curious to me: the per barrel price of oil, $57. It has not been this low in I don't know when, and it is still over $3 a gallon of gas. That ain't winning to me. The only people winning are the oil companies that are still gouging to make up for the past time of the pandemic. The president had promised lower gas prices. They're going up. But meanwhile, the price of oil is going down per barrel.
Well, the Dow Jones now is climbed 3,000 points at the end of the day here based on this. And so we do know this is how he negotiates, right? He always comes in hard and then brings somebody to the table, they cut a deal, and then he eases off on what he's saying, which seems to be what he's doing with most of these tariffs, and the stock market is responding. So if he has negotiated us a better deal, save with China, it seems, then that's a win, right? Is it a win?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, in the long run, we're all dead. But when it comes to economic theory, it's really not what happens this week, next month. This has to be something that has a long-term payoff, or else what's the point? I mean, I just want to remind Commissioner Bigham about how she wanted the price of eggs to come down, and then Trump single-handedly fixed that, and now it's oil. It's always something with her.
Yeah.
Well, here's another question for the former majority leader as well.
Oh,
I mean,
boy.
how many deals did you cut? And can you imagine if Governor Dayton did this kind of stuff?
Sometimes it felt like he did.
But I mean, to negotiate like this, in all seriousness, to negotiate with somebody like this, it is not something that works with stability and continuity and to grow an economy in a country.
No, well, because the risk is that you tank the economy in a way, an economy doesn't come back that quickly.
And you open up markets in another area. I mean, just think about like the soybean market in Brazil. Like when Carter, did embargoes in Brazil. Like I've heard farmers explain that to me. Like, oh, you're too young to remember that, but remember, and they will give you. Farmers do not forget, and they will not forget the damage that this president will do to farmers if we lose markets because of the economic decisions that President Trump is doing.
And it is early, and he's a long way from re-election, and even a long way from the midterm.
He can't get reelected.
Well, sorry. The midterm is what I'm thinking about, right?
Don't.
Yeah.
Okay, my heart just went like this. Okay,
Sorry, I was thinking about.
Okay.
Folks, that's not a conspiracy thing. Just thinking about J.D. Vance, thinking about the legislative midterms. That's all. Not suggesting he run for a third term. You should not, Mr. President. If you're listening, which you're not, please don't run for a third term.
Look at Brian.
No. All right. Okay, Brian. All right.
My damaged heart did not take another turn. Not enough. No, this is it.
No. All right. Well, so let's go to Minnesota, but also a little bit, it's going to ease us away from the national. So there was a big old protest at the state capitol on Saturday. Rochelle and I were actually downtown walking.
In Minneapolis. Not downtown St. Paul, downtown Minneapolis.
Right. And we were seeing a bunch of people with signs. We honestly forgot about the protest. And we're like, well, is there a protest that's also going on at like City Hall or something else? No, it was just throngs of people parking in Minneapolis and taking the light rail to St. Paul. And if you saw the pictures, I mean, it was definitely one of the biggest protests I've seen in a very long time at the state capitol. I'm going to ask the Democrats, what was it about, though? I don't know what it was about. Just we don't like Trump and Elon? Or democracy?
Well, we love democracy. We're saving the democracy because of the fact that President Trump and Musk don't understand that there's checks and balances and there's a process and how to do, our changes in government that they don't want to debate. They just want to do it on their own without any sort of respect for our process. That's it. But also the cuts to Medicaid and the Social Security,
Education.
Yes, and so I think just highlighting that, and I say kudos and good to them for participating in our freedoms of speech and expressing our discontent with the current administration in a peaceful manner, which is what we all have the right to do. So I think it's great to see all these people out in force across the country. I think it was about 20,000 in St. Paul, and there were some other.
I actually believe that the number when you know the Capitol complex and you see the pictures from above.
Well, I would say it was interesting. So just going from what we saw in Minneapolis, and then I drove around to St. Paul to check it out. And
St. Paul's Karen out there scoping. She had her binoculars.
Ready, seeing what's going on in the backyard. So many people
doing?
clogging up
All
the roads.
These people in St. Paul.
Right? Traffic was terrible.
No,
we know
it's
it's
very
okay.
on brand for you. She went driving by to see what
did.
they were up to.
Yep, that was it. But it was and part of it was because I was curious because the people that we were seeing in Minneapolis were like we saw veterans getting out of Buicks that were getting ready to go to
Not what you would expect.
Not what you would expect from like the last time I saw something that big at the Capitol was the Women's March, and it was a very different. To me, it was just a very different crowd. Like the people that were going, and the signs were very
definitely an older crowd.
An older crowd.
Was it a diverse crowd?
It was a diverse. I would say more diverse than the Women's March.
Okay,
but just I mean, like I came in from 35, and 35 was all the way backed up from 36. And you got it into the Capitol complex area, and then I went through Como, and all through Como, you had people that were biking, just with signs, and there was so much variation. And I think it just goes to show the frustration that people are feeling across the board, because it wasn't one thing. You saw people about their veterans benefits with signs. You saw people with, signs for Medicaid, education, concerns about, reproductive rights, gender affirming care. I mean, there's been so much that has happened in the last 90 days that have, where people have felt either financially or seen services taken away or services being threatened to take away. I think that it's just like that amount of fear. And I thought it was like a really beautiful coming together of all kinds of different people on Sunday. It was a beautiful testament to our democracy.
Well,
I cried a lot.
Brian, were you there?
But one thing I want to say though is how many of those people that were at the march had voted for Trump? I'm sure there were a couple, but not many. And if there was this much angst, consternation, then why did some of these people not vote? And that's the real failure here. Yes, you can get mad after the fact all you want, but this wouldn't have happened if people would have voted instead of doing whatever it is they did. And so, yeah, they can complain, but this is what happens when you don't take advantage of your right to vote, when you have the opportunity. And, I mean, get your signs, get mad, get attention or whatever it is, but voting is what's important. Protesting after the fact, not so much.
Yeah, I mean, all I would say is I don't recall 4 years under Biden, there were 20,000 people at the Capitol complex protesting anything. So, I mean...
Well, he doesn't remember either. So.
That was not nice.
Not a lot of things people were excited about on either side.
I'm just saying, though, like, when people
There
are
was a
that
calm
upset... Yeah, I mean, it was peaceful, but I'm just saying, when people are that mad about what's going on, they're going to show up, 20,000 people up there. I'm just saying, like, it's a very valid point. Like, and I get what Brian is saying. Like, I hope all those people showed up and voted. Minnesota was carried by Harris. So,
was Governor Walz there though, or was he in Ohio?
Not that I saw that he spoke anyway.
And they could come vote in the midterms, whether or not.
Klobuchar was there. Yeah, and they could come out and vote in the midterms, which has shown, Wisconsin showed up.
Yeah, Wisconsin did.
All right, sorry, I cut off your transition.
No. I was just going to say, Walz was back in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely not running for president. Certainly not.
Well, I mean, he is doing everything he needs to do to eventually become in ninth in the Democratic primary in 3 years. So good for him. He's making good choices. None of us need him back here in Minnesota. All of us are connected to the budget that they're trying to put together right now. And there are certain aspects of the budget that aren't even close to getting worked out that could use a third party to come in here and broker between the different sides. But, being in Ohio is super important. So I'm glad that that's what the priority is.
I'm assuming that now that
Defend your man, please.
I'm assuming that now that their deadline is this week, and I've always said this: the governor proposes, legislature disposes. I agree with Brian that I'm assuming that now that the deadline will pass here on Friday, that they will in earnest start negotiations with the governor. I do know, if you follow the Star Tribune or Blois, the governor has been meeting more frequently with legislative leaders, if you see his public schedule. So,
And doesn't the legislature have to pass their own bills off their own
Yes.
floors, and then we argue about it in conference committee?
well, it
I
all
guess if
kind
you
of is
want
a
to take
work
really
in
long, you can.
process.
I'm not like just gonna
And
kick
given
it.
the weird 67,
Yeah. You
67
start
split in the
talking
House,
sooner.
like a lot of the negotiations going on right now in the House could use like you might as well weigh in, because that's ultimately the only thing that's going to be able to pass the House. So there's actually an argument this year with that split.
Yeah. But now that negotiation will start in earnest.
Yeah. Well,
With a real transparent.
on the 22nd.
Yeah.
in a few days.
Yeah.
Also, the calm body known as the Senate, which has not been calm at all this year. Senate, we were really counting on you to just be regular. And started out with the very, very sad loss of former Majority Leader Senator Kerry Dietzig. Then the trial of the Woodbury felony burglary court case for Senator Mitchell, I forgot, did not go forward because she's kicking it down the road because she doesn't want to be in trial during session. Then we had former Senator Justin Eichhorn, who was caught up in a sex trafficking sting operation, really. He almost immediately stepped down. The Senate Republicans were no bones about that. You're out. And he indeed did step down. And now there were some stories. I guess we'll touch on this one. No criminal activity alleged. I want to say that. But the Senate President and ethics chair, there was a couple articles. I have to say, on some questions of did he support some legislation for someone that was a client, for an organization that was a client. He is saying, yes, they were a client, but they were pro bono, so he wasn't receiving any remuneration or receiving any payment for the work he was doing. So there's no like financial benefit, which I will say for the Senate is one of the requirements, right? That I can't vote on legislation that's going to personally enrich my bank. And he's saying it was pro bono, so he doesn't meet that requirement. There was an ethics complaint filed. Anyone can file an ethics complaint. Actually, I think the right thing was done. He stepped down as ethics chair until that ethics investigation is complete.
When was the ethics complaint filed? Today?
No, a couple days ago.
Yep. It was pretty in real time.
Yep. Maybe the day after we read the articles. So, there was I think, a Star Tribune article, and then he did step back temporarily, is my understanding.
Of the chair of the ethics.
Chair. Yeah, as chair of ethics. Not as the Senate president, he still remains Senate president. So, thoughts?
It sounds like that's the proper course of action.
It's something that one of the things that's different, I think, about this budget process as opposed to other ones is that the nonprofit sector has really suffered from the Feeding Our Future scandal. The scandal with autism centers and childcare centers, and that has really kind of colored the opinion of both Republicans and Democrats towards giving money directly to nonprofits. However, the fraud that has gotten so much, press and rightfully so, didn't come from direct appropriations. It came from stuff that came through, the departments, our government, the Walz administration. So I think that the nonprofit sector is really being disproportionately punished for things that went through a process like what the government, what the House and Senate now are trying to propose, and not through direct appropriations, which gives legislators, elected people, the ability to pick what is right and what is wrong, who's doing a good job, who's worthy of the people's money, and who's not. What happens with the how this ties in with Senator Champion is that I think this was something that legislators knew was coming, and this does make the process of the legislators picking winners and losers, have a little bit of a negative connotation, and I think that is a problem.
So I agree. I think making sure the nonprofits do not get direct appropriations, it's just it has to be like, this is just another issue that I think is going to continue to haunt the Senate unless they, and the House, to be honest, both. It's just bad practice, so that has to be taken care of. I also think this is a great opportunity, and this comes up. I saw you, Amy, and former leader Susan Kent on Almanac when you guys discussed the Eichhorn issue. Yeah. And I think review of the ethics and just conflict of
Yes.
interest stuff needs to happen. And I just think the public needs to see it. I think members need to see it. I think staff needs to see it. I just think it needs to kind of have a revision. And it would be really cool to have a group of former legislators that and lawyers and different folks and ethics people, policy ethics people, take a look at this and make some recommendations, I think, for consideration, because it's due.
Well, what
and-
happens with the ethics committee, and you all know this, so there's an ethics committee that
Yeah.
explores, any senator can complain or
Yeah.
do an ethics complaint to get another senator. But the ethics committee is the one committee in the Senate that, like in the House now with the 67-67 split, is dead even. So
Yeah.
it's two,
Two and
right?
two.
Two and two Republicans, two Democrats. And so they have to come to an agreement with at least three to actually move anything forward. So what
Yeah.
happens is there's an ethics complaint, and whether it's merited or not, I can't think of a single ethics complaint that has moved forward. Because what happens is the two Democrats, if it's a Democrat, the two Democrats say, yeah, I think this is okay. And the Republicans say it isn't, and vice versa. If it's a Republican, then the Republicans say, I don't have a problem with this. And the Democrats say, I do.
Did the Gruhagen thing move forward?
No, I think he just apologized.
Yeah, I
or
think-
something.
yeah.
I don't think there was ever a vote. So they generally try to come to some consensus.
Yeah.
But the process, and of course, I don't want it to be a partisan
No, it
process. I'm not
shouldn't.
saying it should be
Yeah.
3-2 or whatever, because
Right.
then you could just then the
Abuse it.
majority would
Yeah.
could be very abusive in that. But something about that process needs to, I think, be examined.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm hoping that they maybe hear this, or maybe it's something that a future op-ed piece between you and Susan maybe would be a great opportunity
look at
to push
the burglary situation,
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
you have
like-
2 felony burglar
counts, and she's still
And she's just still there. Almost a year later
yeah.
now to break,
mean-
allegedly breaking into her stepmother's home,
Yeah.
crawling on the floor, dressed all in black. There's a
Yeah.
computer in her bag, breaking in through an egress window. And the Senate Ethics Committee was basically as useless as, I don't know.
Yeah, but
like they didn't. There's no effect.
Yeah.
There's no consequence.
But I do think that Senator Champion was right to ask for the inquiry, and I think he was right to step down as the ethics chair.
I think so.
So I do think that was handled correctly.
But, all right. You know what? Maybe we should go to plugs. I was going to give St. Paul's Karens a chance to talk
my
about the
gosh.
St. Paul
Karen.
City Council,
That's
which
gonna be your
is
new
a
intro
disaster.
when you're on here. And
Hey-
St. Paul's Karen.
Hey, Bob,
know, someone's
I would
gotta
say to
be.
the St. Paul mayor and city council, why don't
Get
you
it
just do your
together.
job and start fixing the roads and
70-some%
And the
worse
garbage?
no, 70% attendance record.
it's
Where all
pathetic.
7
It's
of them are
pathetic.
there.
It's pathetic. They're not showing up. They're spending $2 million instead of the taxpayer dollars on redoing
Renovating
their
their
offices. Instead of working on the very real problem that is even like the only grocery store downtown, Lunds and Byerly's
Closed.
gone.
Or that half of downtown is now closed, like condemned, shuttered, everything. Like get it together.
Sing it,
Like
Karen.
I mean, come on!
No,
it's like
I'm
Mac
serious.
Roveland and Highland are holding up St. Paul right now, and there's so much cool stuff that could be happening, and it makes me so angry.
Are you going to run?
You know
I've
what?
brought it up to her so many times.
I thought about it, but I don't like. Here's the truth about why
Make an
I
announcement.
didn't. Why I didn't? No, why I didn't is because I knew that St. Paul downtown was taking such a turn. I couldn't commit to 4 years in downtown
That's
safely.
sad.
Oh, wow.
And
You
so
love it
that's
there.
why I didn't, because we talked about it.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, those ramps are rough.
Don't even, I'm so angry.
All right, let's do plugs. Who's got
I
plugs?
think
Brian.
Michelle is going to run. She's going to run from
St.
St.
Paul.
Paul.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is very sad.
I have 2 plugs.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so
So
excited. All right, go ahead.
as folks know, I'm a high school football officiant.
I love this.
And this year,
She's a ref.
There's
cool.
flag football, girls high school flag football, and the Vikings actually pay for the teams and everything like that. So that starts on Sunday, and then I'm be on Almanac on Friday.
I love it.
And you're reffing for the flag football.
Yeah, on
that's
Sunday.
great.
Yeah,
On
so that's gonna be
Sunday.
fun.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
I got nothing.
Rochelle, she's normal person today.
Normal person.
Brian.
Just that every Tuesday, you and I are on the Bob Sansevier show, and that will continue.
It's great. Let's see. Every Friday, except I shouldn't even say this Friday, because I'll be in the air. You can catch me on Capital Clash as well, WCCO with Vanita Sakar at 8:20 on 830, The Good Neighbor. Okay, so let's do thanks and spanks. Who would like to go first? Yes.
I can thank
Okay, I know.
Okay, I can go first. I would like to thank my my friend Senator Fong He for bringing forward a bill that he has tried for many years, and it is to expand state veteran benefits, not federal, but state veteran benefits for among veterans that fought alongside United States soldiers in the secret guerrilla unit in the in Laos that they were trained by CIA to fight alongside American soldiers, and so he has brought this forward almost every year that he has been in the Senate. It doesn't ever make it across the finish line, but he does this on behalf of not only his community but the right thing to do for veterans. They fought alongside our American soldiers and trained them, and so I just wanted to thank him for that. And they showed up in the hearing and at the Capitol. And so I just wanted to thank him for that and continuing for him to do that. And my spank is the fight between Peter Navarro, who is I think what do we call him, a trade advisor or economic advisor? Mm-hmm. Is that what his title is? So. And then President Musk, and those two, I think it's called Boys Will Be Boys. And the New York Times has an article where they're going back and forth because they disagree about the tariffs. And there were different names being called. Elon called Navarro dumber than a sack of bricks. And Navarro basically said that Musk is not a car manufacturer, but a car assembler. And insulting. So I would just say this, grow up and help fix the economy for working people because things are getting very expensive.
Heck yeah. Ro,
All
what
right.
do you got?
So my first spank is I read in the Detroit Free Press that a lawyer who was representing one of somebody who was taken by ICE after protesting in a pro-Palestinian document, or was held at the airport coming from the Dominican after a vacation, and agents there were demanding his phone, wanting to see his text messages. And as an attorney, like that privilege is sacred. That there's some Fourth Amendment stuff that comes up for me. And I just, when those things start happening to members of the bench because of who they represent, there's an undermining of justice there that I think is really dangerous for this country, and it makes me really nervous of the spaces that we're going to if that's how we're moving forward. And so I don't know who gets spanked in this exactly, but I really don't like it's happening. So I think we need to, pay attention to that space in a much stronger way. And then because I'm just feisty today, my second spank, and it's not even to St. Paul, even though we could go on there for 2 hours.
Yeah, we know you could.
Is to Representative Johnson of Louisiana. We know that there's continuous Medicaid cuts, and they're facing significant Medicaid cuts that are coming from the House and coming out of the House budget. And the impact to people across this country is just incredibly dangerous. Mm-hmm. And as someone who's lived in Louisiana and has worked in Louisiana and have friends that still work as teachers in Louisiana that are seeing continued funding cuts that are already at the bottom, I think that just how this is going to impact people, their access to care, their access to being able to receive the services that they need to, just to live life is really dangerous. So when you're working for the people that you represent, I think it's really important to make sure that you're looking at what's happening in your district and the impact that it's going to have on people. So spanks all around.
Nice. Brian?
All right. Well, first of all, I'm going to apologize. There's a little bit of a background noise because if you're watching this on YouTube, which I hope you are, behind me I have the Aurora Borealis, but in reality, I'm in the cafeteria of the Minnesota Department of Transportation, and they're trying to clean up. So I'm stopping them from doing that. So I apologize. So I will be quick. So my first spank is going to be to Hamas. We haven't talked about this in a while, and people get super worked up about this, as they should. There are many shades of gray in this. But one thing that it came out this week through the New York Times and U.S. News and World Reports is just the amount of lying that Hamas has done about the casualties, in the conflict with Israel. I just did, as we're sitting here, I just did a quick Google search of Palestinian death toll versus Israel. First thing that comes up is a number of Palestinians killed, over 48,000. Well, Al Jazeera reported this week a number that was actually definable, provable, and it was about 1,700. So my spank is to people who take information that has come from a very biased source and then use that in order to further their political gain, but then turn around and get angry when they talk about misinformation and fake news and all that other stuff on the other side. These are serious things. These are actual deaths. And to just throw out these wildly huge numbers, which are not true, the numbers that are being reported by Al Jazeera are similar to the ones being reported by Israel about the Palestinian death toll. So people, do your real research, get information from more than one source, and then zealously, defend your point, because the numbers that are being thrown out there are offensively bad. My thank is going to be to Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett, who is one of the conservative judges on the United States Supreme Court. One of the things that's happening that was just before the Supreme Court is the Trump administration trying to deport Venezuelan migrants who may and probably do have connections to Venezuelan gangs, to deport them under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. In the dissenting opinion, Justice Sotomayor, really was attacking the Trump administration for some of the things they're doing. Justice Coney Barrett agreed with some parts of that dissent, and when you actually look at what Coney Barrett was agreeing with, was due process, that these people have due process, that they shouldn't be whisked away under cover of darkness and flown somewhere without being given knowing what's going on. And it's clear that these people still, even though they're not American citizens, they do have a right to due process. So the MAGA world has now turned against Amy Coney Barrett because how dare you say anything that isn't lockstep in line with what they think is right. So I'm going to thank her for actually doing her job. If Javier were here, Javier and I almost weekly, fight about or debate about whether the judiciary has independent thought. This bolsters my point that they do actually follow the law, that they don't just say, well, this is how I vote, so this is how I'm going to rule. So I'm proud whenever, whether it's the left or the right, kind of crosses over and says, nope, this is what the law says, because that's their job. So Justice Amy Coney Barrett, you are thanked.
All right, nice. Okay, so I have kind of two thanks this week. So for folks that are following the St. Paul drama, besides listening here to Rochelle and to the podcast that likes to follow it, I recommend on Twitter, I want to thank Fred Mello. He's a reporter for the Pie Press, and I don't think we do enough, first of all, thanking of local press, because it's a dying medium. I hope not. I hope it's not dying. I actually hope it's coming into a resurgence. But Fred has been following the city council. Who else is going to, right? Not Fox News, not CNN, not MSNBC. We need local reporters on the beat actually doing their job. And Fred's doing a great job covering this banana cakes city council. And his tweets are fantastic. Here's a little taste. When he was writing about where they couldn't come, they kind of met for a few minutes. They left and they couldn't appoint a new member of their city council. He writes, the quiet blow-up of sorts follows a tortured appointment process. Yep. Is that not on?
It's not on.
Oh my gosh.
I can hear you fine. Amy.
Oh, you could hear me
We
fine.
could hear
All right.
you. Yeah, you're so loud.
Okay, it's because I'm so loud. All right, read Fred. I don't want to miss Fred's words, though. The quiet blow-up of sorts follows a tortured appointment process that has called into question the ability of an increasingly Machiavellian city council to complete basic tasks, like filling an open seat, without coming to loggerheads over policy and politicking. That's just a beautiful tweet, and I want to give kudos to Fred for writing it and for covering that city council so carefully. And then the other thank goes out to a place called Colossal Biosciences. They're a U.S.-based company, and they're a cloning company. And they recently announced that they have cloned an animal that was extinct for 10,000 years.
interesting.
The dire wolf. They cloned the dire wolf, probably most famous for folks that watched the series Game of Thrones. But they have brought back to life an extinct animal. The last one born on Earth was 10,000 years ago, the dire wolf. They're also very famously setting a goal of bringing back the woolly mammoth. They say by 2028. They brought back recently a woolly mouse, is what they called it, which was basically shared some of the DNA. And so some very interesting things happening over there. So I want to thank them, and I want to ask them to please use some of your biotech magic on the eighth season of Game of Thrones, because it was truly crappy and should have died an earlier death than 10,000 years ago. And maybe you could do something about that. It was the worst.
I'm a little worried
I
about
thought
Jurassic
I thought you were
Park.
going to ask for them to work on the woolly beaver.
No. It can't always be about beaver.
That sounds a little Jurassic Park, though.
All right. And with that, I am former Republican Senate Majority Leader Amy Koch.
I'm going to still fight in St. Paul and not be a Karen, Rochelle Westland.
And I am former State Senator Carla Bigham.
And I am GOP strategist, and there better not be a tariff on the dire wolf I just ordered, Brian McDaniel.
And we are wrong about
Wrong
everything.